What is your definition of a learning organization, and how can leaders build a learning organization? What types of resources do you need?
Well, first off, I would jettison the jargon. A term like that, the learning organization, is always to some degree going to be jargony, and therefore gets to be off-putting for people. Just think of it as people working together at their best. How do we grow organizations where that's the norm? And it's a continual, relentless process to keep learning how to work together at our best. Because if you're doing that, you're going to be learning. As I said, there's only two mindsets that kind of can infiltrate an organization: control or learning. And it's a question of which one is dominant. And if learning dominates, I guarantee you'll create all the different aspects of what we call a learning organization. I think that, the how-to is obviously what all the work has always been about. And that's why there's not only the original Fifth Discipline, there's the Fifth Discipline Field Book, there's the Dance of Change Field Book, there's even a field book strictly on doing this in educational context. It's called Schools That Learn. And those field books are like 600 pages of stories and examples and tips and tools. So there's a lot of how-to. So you can't really summarize it very completely in a brief form. But it comes back to those three broad areas, but there are tools we talked about before. The three broad areas, fostering aspiration. There are tools for encouraging, building personal mastery and building shared vision. Creative tension is a very basic tool that individuals learn how to work with. There are tools for fostering reflection. The ladder of inference is a tool that we found once people learn, they never, stop using it. And in teams, it's enormously powerful. It's basically just a way to in a more disciplined way, distinguish what actually happened from my interpretations and attributions about what happened, all my assumptions, and becoming disciplined at distinguishing fact from assumption, you might say. Assumptions are really important. It's not that they're bad. You don't ever get rid of assumptions. You can't live without assumptions. The question is, are we disciplined in relating those to what's actually happening? So those are a set of tools. And then in the systems understanding and seeing larger systems, there's a whole set of tools, system archetypes, seeing basic patterns of systemic activity, like what we call shifting the burden, a pattern where there's a problem and people focus quickly on a quick fix. But they know there's a deeper source of the problem. And if they get caught up in the quick fix, they never get to the deeper source. So understanding those systemic patterns, we call them archetypal patterns, system archetypes. So there's tools all over the place. So you need to have tools to work with. And that's why all these big field books exist. And a lot of those tools have evolved. But there's plenty out there. But then you also need to have a commitment to this. So we often call it the guiding ideas. So what does the organization stand for? In Bob Keegan's recent book on deeply developmental organizations, he gives 3 examples of organizations that are very explicitly, by their philosophy, by their actions, by their day-to-day practice, dedicated to the continual development of their people. So you need to have, you might say, a philosophic framework that kind of orients you. And then you need to have time. So the 3 things we say that always matter in practice are, do you have tools? Do you have a kind of guiding philosophy, what we often call guiding ideas that help people orient that we're not here just to make money? Yeah, we want to be a good business, but we want to be a good business that also grows people, and we really mean it. And do you have time? Do you have the internal, we often call them learning infrastructures. If there's no time to reflect, it doesn't matter how skillful you are at reflection. If there's no way to kind of organize and study what's being learned in different places, people doing this and learning this, but over here people are wrestling with the same problem. They have no clue what the people have learned over here because there's no infrastructure that shares that learning. In the software industry now, it's amazing. And partly this is because it's being done more online. They're coordinating these distributed development teams remotely. So they actually have a lot of data and they can share it. So that what we often call the learning infrastructure, the time, the resources to study and learn, help people learn from each other, bring people together. I know it's mundane, but do people ever get together? And if they get together, do they do something other than watch stupid PowerPoints?
Right.
That's like the dumbest thing in the whole world. Why would you bring people together, which is a big undertaking, and not use the time for real learning? Do you know how to do that? Do you have the tools? If you have the time, do you know how to use the tools? So, for example, any of the organizations are really good at this. They're really good at hosting meetings where people actually spend time really learning. They have World Cafes, one of the tools that's propagated widely in our networks as a way to organize big meetings. In any event, so you need all three of those. You need tools, you need a philosophy, and you need infrastructure to make it all real.